Hello, fellow guitarists, and today I'm gonna be making another experimental video, this time about restoration. Recently I got a pretty interesting deal on almost a brand new bass, so I'm the first owner and the bass was inside the shop for 19 years. Of course, it was in a pretty rough shape, so I tried to repair it and restore it to the former glory. So I started with simply removing the old strings. The strings that was originally installed on the factory was Elixir's set, which although was in really good shape, definitely will be better off of this guitar. So I uninstalled all the strings and started my repair. While I'm uninstalling the strings, I give you a bit more information on the guitar itself. It's an Ibanez BTB 405 QM, which is a long-scale Ibanez bass manufactured from 2001 to 2007. And the interesting part about it, that all of 405s should be manufactured in Korea, but mine is made in Indonesia in 2005. And it's really interesting because I didn't manage to find any evidence of this guitar existing except but the few Ukrainian forums where this guitar was sold as the used instrument. So this makes me conclude that this model was made for either Ukrainian or CIS markets at the time, and which make it even more interesting. In terms of specs, it's exactly the same as the Korean BTB 405, which is basswood body, quilted maple veneer, 5-piece maple walnut neck with 2 truss rods, graphite nut, and a true rosewood fingerboard. It's a long scale bass, so the scale length is 35 inches, and it has 24 frets. Well, not exactly, it has 24 frets on the 2 high strings, and on all others it has a 23 fret fingerboard. It has Ibanez in-house pickups and an active electronics which consists of volume and balancer, which is basically a pickup selector, the bass cut and boost, treble cut and boost, mid cut and boost, and mid frequency regulators. And now with you knowing everything about this guitar, we can go with the repairs. I started by removing plastic covers. The one I removed before the video on the neck pickup was so because it was interfering with the vibration of the strings. The thing was extremely unpleasant to touch and was held in place both by its own sticking powers and by the clear tape. Guitar accumulated a really large amounts of dust on itself, so I started by removing the bridge saddles to increase the amount of surface I will be polishing. Important thing to note here was the ground wire that came separately to each saddle. It's very crucial to not damage it and of course to install the saddle back correctly so it will have the contact with the ground wire and we won't have any electrical noises while playing. While uninstalling the bridge saddles, I came to probably the most unpleasant part of this repair. It's being a basswood body. Basswood is a pretty fragile wood that's very easy to chip, and as a result of this, a tiniest pieces of wood came out of the screw holes once I was uninstalling the bridge saddles. Nothing crucial, but I needed to be extra cautious not to damage them, because repair of this sort will be far more time consuming and far more expensive. After I removed the bridge saddles, I decided to remove pickups as well. Main reason of doing so was the fact that almost 20 years in store ended up creating a huge layer of dust on the pickups, especially in the places where they meet the body. And because of this, guitar looked terrible and very dirty. So I removed the pickups that was held in place by 3 screws, which is really cool decision that allows you to both change the height of the pickup and the tilt of the pickup, which I think is the feature that should be present on more guitars and not only on the basses. And the first issue of this repair arrived when I removed the pickup and understood that all the accumulated dust cannot be removed by simply wiping it off with a rag. So I went away and came back with something based on alcohol. In my case, it was a spirit-based sanitizer, which, to be honest, did its charm and helped me to remove almost, if not all, the dust accumulated during the long years. And I was pretty happy about it, but if you will do the same on your pickups, first of all, they need to be covered. This is covered pickup, which has a piece of plastic, in this case, around the pickup itself. You also need to be very sure about the finish, because the nitro finishes that are present, for example, on all Gibsons, are very afraid of spirits and will simply melt off if they came in contact with something based on a high amounts of spirit. Here you can see how many dust and dirt remained on the pickup before I removed it with the spirit-based alcohol, and you can see the effect of it. So we can definitely say that my approach was effective. After I cleared the bridge pickup, I installed it back in place and repeated the same procedure to the neck pickup. Also, this is the moment where I should apologize if video has a significant drop-off in quality. It's my fault because I made the main video of my work on this guitar a bit too long, and as a result of this I could not transfer it to my PC by uploading it to the cloud or via cable, so I left with the only option: upload it to YouTube and download it back, which definitely damaged the quality. The next piece of this restoration will be polishing. So you need to grab a bottle of a guitar polish, spray it either on a cloth or on a guitar body, and with the previously mentioned piece of fiber, apply it to the guitar body. Because this guitar gathered a lot of dust and dirt with like 20 years in a store, it required a lot of polishing, and one run was definitely not enough. The next thing I did is prepare the fingerboard for conditioning by simply wiping off all the dust accumulated on it. After first round of polishing, I grabbed the same cloth and the same hand sanitizer and wiped the saddles with it. Why I did this is simply to remove once again any dust, dirt and grime accumulated over the years. And to be honest, it didn't restore them to like factory condition, but made them a tiniest bit more shinier and cleaner. So I guess we can also write this thing as a success. Afterwards, I carefully installed them in exactly the same position, so I positioned the thing beforehand, so I knew which saddle corresponded to which string, and install them back. I try not to press too hard on the saddle, simply not to crack a very prone to cracking and chipping basswood body. So I simply went until I felt a lot of resistance, and then just a tiniest bit more, but didn't put a lot of force into it. And then another round of polishing, this time on the headstock. It was really dusty, and as a result of this, the dust accumulated as a very thin satin layer over the headstock. After that, I once again removed all of the remaining dust on a fingerboard, just to be sure I kept it as clean and dust-free as possible before conditioning. Next part was proper cleaning and conditioning, so I sprayed a bit of lemon oil and applied it to the fingerboard. This should help me remove all the dirt and once again condition the fretboard just a little bit. After applying the lemon oil, I went to remove all the control knobs. The knobs here are kept in place by a hex screw, so I used Dunlop multi-tool and a hex bit on my screwdriver to remove them. There are two types of knobs. One are held by the screw like this one, and the other one are push-in knobs. I personally prefer the one held on the screw because they are a bit less tedious to remove and a bit less damaging to the knob, because sometimes the push-in knobs are really hard to remove and you need to apply a lot of force to do so. Once again, a tiny run of polish around the knobs. Once I removed all the knobs, I tightened the nut on every potentiometer. And then maintenance of the pots themselves. We are using contact cleaner here and spraying it over the pots. Most of the time it's enough to get the contact cleaner inside the pot. And also you need to turn them while you're doing so the contact cleaner gets inside. It's a very helpful thing if you have a cracking pot. It should help with it. Also, it helps if your pots are really hard moving, because for example a volume knob here was really problematic. It moved really hard, and also it's like a stuck after half a turn, so from 50% to 100% it moved really hard. This thing helped, but not right away. It took around 24 hours for it to make its way inside the pot and remove all the grime and dust and dirt inside of it. The next part was to clean the knobs. I once again used the hand sanitizer that was based on alcohol. It didn't restore them to factory condition, but once again make them shinier and a bit more pleasant to look upon. Then I installed all the knobs back in place, tightened the screw on them, and I can say that the round of contact cleaner definitely made the potentiometers a good service, because they became far less resistant, far more smoother, and mainly it's about the volume knob. So overall, if you have problem with your pots, before removing them, resoldering and everything like this, simply give it a run with a contact cleaner and most of the time all of your problems will disappear. Then I gave the guitar the second round of lemon oil because the first one was completely sucked in by never conditioned before fretboard. Then I wiped away all the remaining lemon oil. Then I removed the truss-rod cover, which in Ibanez Infinite Wisdom was installed on 4 separate screws, which make this process incredibly time-consuming and tedious, especially if you have strings installed. Afterwards, you guessed it, another round of polishing on the headstock. It's a nice thing when the guitar is almost as old as you are, but you're still removing all the plastic covering. It's nice. Then I came to the last part of cleaning the fretboard. I picked up a Dunlop deep cleaner. It's partially lemon oil. It's far better at cleaning your fretboard, but does not condition it. It's even make it more dry, so you need to condition it afterwards once again. But it's the best tool to remove any dirt from your fretboard. Next part is a fretboard conditioning with Dunlop Deep Cleaner. This thing should condition the fretboard to the perfect condition and also remove any sort of remaining dirt with inbuilt kinda like rug on the top of the bottle. Also, it's far more pleasant to apply this inbuilt rug onto the bass rather than on a guitar, because it fits underneath each and every fret, which is far more pleasant when on the guitar you really need to squeeze it between the high frets. My camera must moved a bit so you don't see it, but I am tightening the nut on every tuner. It's a very important procedure. It will not improve your tuning stability, but will help to increase the lifespan of your tuner. And you guessed it, another round of polishing everything on this guitar. And let's remove the plastic covering on the electronics cavity. Once again, it's a new guitar. So yeah, my camera died, and the only thing that remained to be shown is to tie the tuners a bit, because they are just a bit too floppy. And yeah, now they're a bit more nice. So yeah, it's the last part. And now guitar should be left alone for a while. Simply let the truss rod do its job, affect the wood and everything like this. So yeah, I think the next part will be simply restringing it, and we'll see how it works afterwards. So here comes the most interesting part. It's restoring protective coating on the fingerboard. If you know that unfinished fingerboard are not exactly unfinished. I use the linen oil. You can get it in America almost anywhere. If you are not living in America where you have tongue, linen and all other oils, you can simply go to the weapon store and get it there. So I am pouring it onto the fretboard and applying it via sponge. You can let it dry over the night, or at least for 2-3 hours. So yeah, this is basically everything. It will be soaked into the wood and create a thin layer of protective coating, which should help your fingerboard to be like in a better shape. On the new guitar, it's definitely a thing you not required to do, but if you are buying a used or a very old guitar, this thing probably should be done. But if you're not sure, simply bring it to the luthier that you can trust. He will make all the restoration work for you. And then you guessed it, we are going for another round of polishing. Also, the neck pickup was not cleaned exactly great by me in the first day, so I redid my job once again. Then I removed a bit of the dirt from the locking jack. My main tool for it was a rug and a flathead screwdriver. After a few hours of waiting, I removed all the linen oil that wasn't sucked in. Once again, if you're doing a proper restoration, you should probably wait for a longer period of time, but I was almost certain that protective coating on this fretboard was okay. And the last part here was to install the new strings. I went for exactly the same gauge. In my case, I once again wanted to use coated strings, so I went to the store. They didn't have elixirs, so I went for the Dario XTs, which are once again a pretty nice set of strings. I decided to pick exactly the same gauge as the guitar came stock with. Also, I'm a big fan of coated strings, and the best advertisement for elixirs is the stock strings on this guitar, because after the string change I didn't felt any significant difference between these Darius XTs and elixirs that was previously installed on the guitar. And you can clearly see that those Darius are brand new, they are sealed, and everyone here knows that the Dario do make at least decent strings, but I personally think that they make a great strings. In terms of fixating the string inside the bridge, you simply need to slot the ball end inside the cavity. It will slot in and will stay in place when the pressure is applied. Pretty nice engineering in my personal opinion. I don't know how the strings are most of the time placed inside the bases, but this idea is really cool. In terms of installing new strings, you simply need to count a spacing about 1.5 2 tuners from the place in which you will install the strings, cut the string there, then you find a hole inside the tuner post, simply put the string there, wind it around the tuner and apply the tension. Basically that's all. Not that difficult, to be honest, but definitely require just the tiniest bit of practice. And also about the tuners. They are very good. On the Ibanez wiki it stated that this guitar should have a Goto tuners. I didn't find any Goto brandings, but the tuner quality itself is very solid. So this can be a Goto. Or if they are not, they are still very, very good. And so here you go with a few pictures of before and after. Overall, I think my restoration process was a success and the guitar looks and plays far better than it did before. Of course, I made a setup and intonation adjustments off screen, and overall guitar is pretty nice. It's a pretty decent bass. Of course, I would not recommend reproducing my exact steps because I'm not a professional luthier, although my actions did not result in guitar getting in any shape or form worse. So if you enjoyed the video, found it in any shape or form entertaining or useful, I would be very thankful if you like the video, if you subscribe to the channel, if you leave a comment about what you like and what you didn't, so I could adjust my content more to the liking of the people who watches it. And play good guitars and basses. And bye! And I'm leaving you with a small tone demo with guitar after restoration.